So, you just got a 4% raise. Time to celebrate, right? But then you look at your grocery bill, your rent, and the cost of, well, just living, and you know something is deeply wrong. You're making more money than you ever have, yet it feels like you're falling further behind. So what's the point of a raise if your life still gets more expensive? Let me tell you, that's not just a feeling, it's a fact. The economy right now is a trap, and your pay raise is the bait. They hand you a few extra dollars with one hand while the other is in your pocket taking even more. They want you running on a treadmill, working harder just to stay in the same place, too tired to notice the finish line is getting further away. You're told to be grateful for the job, for the paycheck, for the illusion of progress. And the moment you accept that story, you stop asking the only question that matters. Where is your money actually going? But the truth? Your salary is no longer a tool for building wealth. It's become a mechanism of control, designed to keep you dependent, in debt, and just comfortable enough not to fight back. The scary part is how normal this has started to feel. In this video, I'm going to show you the numbers they hope you'll ignore. We're going to tear down the lies you've been told about inflation, about your wages, and about what it really takes to get ahead. And most importantly, I'm going to give you the financial survival plan you need to break free. This isn't about cutting out lattes. This is about understanding the rules of a rigged game, and then using those rules to build a life of real freedom and actual wealth. And once you see the first number, you'll understand why 6 figures doesn't mean what it used to. Because the one thing they're counting on is you never figuring it out. Alright, let's start with that pay raise. You opened the email from HR, saw the number, maybe 3.5%, maybe 4%, and did the quick math in your head. For a second, you felt that flicker of satisfaction, progress. But that feeling disappears fast, doesn't it? It vanishes the moment you pay for groceries, fill up your car, or write that rent check. Suddenly, that raise doesn't just feel small, it feels like it never even happened. So what happened to it? Where did that extra money go before you even touched it? This is the first layer of the trap. It's designed to make you feel like you're moving forward. Projections for 2026 showed companies budgeting for average salary increases around 3.6%. Sounds reasonable, right? And in a vacuum, it would be. But we don't live in a vacuum. We live in an economy that is actively eroding the value of every single dollar you earn. And the erosion is subtle enough to deny, but loud enough to feel. The government and the media will point to the headline inflation number as proof that everything is under control. They'll tell you that as of January 2026, the annual inflation rate has cooled to a comfortable 2.4%. They present this number like a victory. They'll say, hey, your raise is 3.6% and inflation is only 2.4%, so you're coming out ahead. Congratulations, you're getting richer. If that were true, your life would feel easier, not tighter. So why does it feel like the opposite? But you know that's a lie. You can feel it in your bank account. That gap between the official story and your actual life is the most important economic signal in the world right now. It's the clue that the game is rigged. They're showing you one number to keep you calm, while the numbers that actually run your life are telling a much darker story. The headline inflation number isn't just wrong. It's a dangerously misleading tool they use to hide the fact that your salary is shrinking every single day. And the giveaway is simple. The stuff you can't opt out of is where the pressure is coming from. So if the official inflation rate is a lie, what's the truth? The truth is what I call your personal inflation rate. The government's headline number, the CPI, is a broad average of hundreds of things. It includes stuff you buy every day, but also stuff you might never buy, which blurs the picture. You don't live in the average economy. You live in your economy. And in your economy, the costs are exploding. So let's stop talking about averages and look at the handful of categories that actually decide your quality of life. Let's look at the numbers they hope you ignore. The official headline inflation rate was 2.4% in January 2026. But what about the non-negotiable costs of just living? The price of food has jumped 2.9% over the last year. That's not just a statistic. It's that feeling of dread in the grocery aisle. And it's not stopping. The USDA even forecasts that the cost of eating out will climb another 3.7% this year. What about shelter, the biggest expense for most of us? The official number for that is up 3%. But we all know that for many people, rent and mortgage payments have soared by far more. For years, the cost of a roof over your head has relentlessly outpaced wage growth. And what about staying healthy? The cost of medical care services is up 3.2%. Or think about the basics you can't avoid. Shampoo, toothpaste, soap. The costs for everyday personal care items are still climbing at uncomfortable rates. See the pattern? Food, shelter, health. These aren't luxuries, these are the absolute essentials. And every single one is seeing inflation that's significantly higher than the headline number they use to tell you everything's fine. That official 2.4% figure is being artificially dragged down by temporary price drops in a few random categories like used cars. But the core costs of simply existing are rising at a rate that is suffocating your paycheck. And once you notice that, you can't unsee it. The cooling is happening in the categories you can delay, not the ones you must pay. Your personal inflation rate isn't 2.4%. For most of us, when you look at where your money actually goes, it's closer to 3, 4, or even 5%. So that 3.6% raise, it's not a gain, it's a loss. You are getting poorer, and they are counting on you being too busy to do the math. So let's do the math, cleanly, brutally, and in a way you can't talk yourself out of. To see how deep this goes, let's invent a character, Alex. Alex works hard, lands a great job in 2026, and is now making $100,000 a year. This is the dream, right? The six-figure salary that's supposed to mean financial security. Now watch what happens when that dream number meets the real world. But let's see what the economy actually does to Alex's dream salary. First, Uncle Sam takes his cut. Let's be generous and assume a combined federal and state tax rate of 25%. So, $100,000 minus 25% in taxes leaves $75,000. That's Alex's take-home pay, or about $6,250 a month. Still sounds pretty good, but this is where the real trap begins. Over the course of the year, that official 2.4% inflation is quietly eating away at that money. By the end of the year, Alex's $75,000 will only buy what $73,200 could buy at the start, a silent loss of $1,800. But we know the truth. Alex's personal inflation rate, based on the real costs of essentials, is much higher. Let's be conservative and say it's 4%. Now, let's rerun the numbers. That $75,000 in take-home pay, when hit by 4% real inflation, loses $3,000 in purchasing power over the year. By December, Alex's $100,000 salary only buys what $72,000 could at the start. And that's the part nobody puts in the raise email. Your buying power is what got cut, not your paycheck. At the end of the year, Alex's boss gives a generous 3.6% raise. Alex's salary is now $103,600. It feels like a win, but it's a complete illusion. That 3.6% raise is less than the 4% personal inflation rate. Alex is now making more money than ever before, but is functionally poorer. So the question isn't, did you get a raise? The question is, did you outrun the treadmill? This is the $100,000 salary trap. It's the golden handcuffs that keep smart, hardworking people chained to a system that's bleeding them dry. You're lured in with a big number, but taxes and real inflation are the hidden termites eating away at your financial foundation. You're left with an expensive lifestyle, but with very little left over to actually save or invest. You're a high earner, but you're not wealthy. You're just a well-paid member of the working poor. And now that you've seen how the trap works on 100K, the next part is even more uncomfortable. What happens to everyone below that line? So what happens when the math just doesn't add up? When your salary, no matter how big, can't cover the rising cost of living? You know the answer. You see it everywhere. You might even be living it. You turn to debt. Debt is the system's pressure release valve. It's the patch that covers the gaping hole between your income and your expenses, letting the illusion of prosperity continue a little longer. Need a car to get to that job that doesn't pay you enough? There's a loan for that. Can't afford a house? Here's a mortgage that will own you for 30 years. Groceries cost more than you have in the bank this week? Just put it on the credit card. And once debt becomes normal, you're no longer asking if you can afford something, you're asking how long you can finance it. And right now, business is booming. But the scale of it is what should make your stomach drop. By the end of 2025, total household debt in the US is projected to have climbed past $18 trillion. It's a number so big, it's almost meaningless. It's a monument to a society that has been forced to borrow from its future just to survive the present. Let's break it down. Credit card balances alone have soared past a record $1.1 trillion. This isn't just shopping sprees. This is millions of families putting gas and groceries on plastic because their paychecks have been hollowed out. Auto loan balances have swelled to over $1.6 trillion as people take out longer loans than ever just to afford the car they need to get to work. And here's the tell. When essentials move to credit, the system isn't helping you. It's converting your survival into a subscription. And here's the terrifying part. The cracks are showing. Delinquency rates, the percentage of people falling behind on their payments, are hitting their highest levels in nearly a decade. Millions of people who were sold the American dream are now on the verge of default. So the question isn't whether debt is rising. It's what happens when it stops rolling over. This is the endpoint of the salary trap. Your pay raise is an illusion. To cover the gap, you take on debt. The payments on that debt then eat up more of your shrinking paycheck, forcing you to take on even more debt just to stay afloat. It's a treadmill, and with every step, you're just generating profits for the very system that's trapping you. And the moment you feel relief from borrowing, that's the moment the trap tightens, because now you have payments. If you think this economic pressure is hitting everyone equally, you haven't been paying attention. The jaws of the trap are snapping shut much faster and harder on some than on others. This isn't just a general downturn. It's a targeted process that disproportionately punishes women, and especially women of color. Because starting behind in income turns inflation into a multiplier, not just a tax. Let's talk about the gender pay gap. You've heard the term for years, maybe even heard it dismissed as a myth, but the latest numbers are real and they are infuriating. According to the most recent data, a woman working full-time year-round still earns only about 82 cents for every dollar a man earns. This isn't about different job choices or hours. This is comparing full-time workers. But that 82-cent figure, as bad as it is, hides a much more brutal reality. For a black woman, the number is not 82 cents. It's closer to 69 cents. For a Native American woman, it's around 60 cents. And for a Latina, it is a catastrophic 57 cents for every dollar paid to a white, non-Hispanic man. So when people say just save more, they're ignoring the starting line. Let that sink in. A Latina has to work all of 1 year and then keep working until late October of the next year just to earn what a white man earns in a single year. Think about what that means over a lifetime. That gap adds up to nearly $1 million in lost earnings. $1 million. That's a house. That's a secure retirement. That is generational wealth. Stolen. Not due to a lack of effort, but because the system is designed to value her work at nearly half the rate of someone else's. And if a woman has a child, the motherhood penalty kicks in. A mother working full-time earns just 74 cents for every dollar a father earns. It's a direct financial punishment for becoming a parent. A penalty that isn't applied to men. So when we say your salary isn't enough, we have to be specific. For millions of women, that 3.6% raise is applied to a base salary that is already unfairly low. The inflation trap is compounded by a wage trap that has been in place for generations. And that means the same economy can feel tight for one person and completely unlivable for another. So why does this happen? Defenders of the status quo have a simple answer. Choice. They'll say women choose to go into lower paying fields. That explanation isn't just insulting, it's a deliberate lie. The reality isn't choice, it's a system of occupational segregation, not preference, placement. It sounds like a fancy term, but it's simple. Through cultural messages, education, and hiring bias, men and women are systematically funneled into different kinds of work. And the work women are funneled into is by design paid less. Think about it. Women are vastly overrepresented in education, healthcare support, and social services. These jobs are the bedrock of our society. They require immense skill and patience, and they are all chronically underpaid. Meanwhile, men are overrepresented in finance, tech, and engineering, fields the economy deems more valuable and compensates accordingly. So the economy doesn't just reward value, it decides what counts as value. Now connect this to our pay raises. Which industries did recent surveys show were getting the lowest average salary increases? Education and hospitality, hovering around 3%. And which were getting the highest? Engineering, science, and tech, projected at 4% or more. So the raises don't correct the gap, they quietly reinforce it. Do you see the trap? It's a vicious cycle. Women are steered into lower paying industries, and then those same industries get the smallest raises, making it mathematically impossible to ever catch up. We praise teachers and nurses as heroes, but we pay them like their work is a hobby. Occupational segregation is just a polite term for an economic ghetto, ensuring that entire classes of people are kept at a permanent financial disadvantage. This is the point where someone says, but my company is different. We have diversity programs. We have women in leadership. And that's exactly when the trap gets smarter, not louder. Researchers call it the diversity paradox. The diversity paradox is a fascinating and infuriating phenomenon. Once an organization meets its visible diversity goals, puts women on the website, promotes a few to VP, the real, meaningful progress on equal pay often grinds to a halt, because the optics create a sense of closure. It's a form of corporate gaslighting. The company creates the appearance of fairness. They hit their quotas and check the boxes. Executives look around, see women in the room, and assume the problem is solved. They stop scrutinizing pay and promotion decisions for bias because they believe they're fair. And the moment scrutiny disappears, inequality stops being fixed and starts being managed. The result? The underlying pay gaps remain. A company can have a female CEO and still pay the women in its marketing department less than the men. The visible diversity becomes camouflage, hiding the inequality that still exists just beneath the surface. It proves the system isn't just broken, it's adaptive. It has learned to absorb the language of social justice and use it as a shield. Your salary isn't enough because the very definition of enough is determined by a set of hidden rules written to benefit a select few. And until you understand those rules, you don't have a chance of winning. So the goal here isn't outrage, it's clarity. The master key to building wealth is creating the widest possible gap between what you earn and what you spend. Think of it as offense and defense. Your offense is your income. Your defense is your spending. You have to be brilliant at both. Let's start with offense. Your primary job is no longer enough. Waiting for a 3.6% annual raise is a losing strategy. You have to go on the offensive, not by working harder, by positioning smarter. First, demand transparency and negotiate aggressively. The system is rigged, especially against women. Use that knowledge. Research the median salary for your exact role in your city. Document every accomplishment and quantify your value. Walk into your salary negotiation not with a request, but with a data-backed case for why you are underpaid. In this economy, negotiation isn't confrontational. It's an act of financial self-defense. And the difference between good and great negotiation is preparation, not confidence. Second, prioritize high-growth sectors. If you're in a field getting 3% raises, you're on a sinking ship. The lifeboats are in sectors like tech, engineering, and finance, where specialized skills are in high demand, and raises are projected at 4% or more. This might mean learning a new skill, like AI, cybersecurity, or data analysis. It's the single fastest way to make a quantum leap in your earning potential. Because growth sectors don't just pay more, they keep paying more. Third, and this is crucial, build an income stream that is completely detached from your employer. A side hustle, a small business, a freelance service. This is your ultimate hedge. When you have your own source of income, you can give yourself a raise whenever you want by finding a new client. This is how you escape the salary trap. And once that second stream exists, your employer stops feeling like your entire world. Now for defense. This is about one thing: aggressively managing lifestyle creep. When you get a raise, the default is to upgrade your life. Nicer car, bigger apartment. Don't. Every time you inflate your lifestyle, you're just tightening your own golden handcuffs. Instead, keep your core lifestyle the same and divert every new dollar towards your freedom. Automate it. Set up an automatic transfer to your savings and investment accounts the day you get paid. The money you never see is the money you'll never miss. This gap is your profit margin. It is the raw material from which your freedom will be built. And once you build that gap, everything else in this plan becomes easier. For decades, we've been told to have an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a savings account. That advice is outdated. It's too passive, too fear-based. In this economy, you don't need an emergency fund. You need a freedom fund. And the difference is simple. An emergency fund helps you survive a problem. A freedom fund helps you choose your next move. The Freedom Fund is the ultimate no money. It's the financial power to say no to a bad situation, a toxic environment, or an opportunity that isn't right for you. It transforms you from a pawn into a player. Building it requires discipline, but with every dollar you add, you are buying another small piece of freedom. You are buying back your own life. Once your Freedom Fund is full, it's time for the final, most powerful step: changing your fundamental relationship with money. Because this is where the rules flip in your favor. The whole system is built on a simple premise. Some people loan money, and some people owe money. The people who loan get rich from interest. The people who owe get poor paying it. The system is designed to make you a perpetual borrower. To win, you must switch sides. You must become an owner. Being an owner means your money starts working for you. It means you own assets that generate more money over time. And the fastest way to feel the shift is when you realize your paycheck isn't the destination, it's the fuel. For most people, the simplest and most effective way to do this is to become a part owner of the world's greatest businesses through investing. I'm not talking about picking hot stocks, that's just gambling. I'm talking about consistently buying low-cost, broad market index funds. An index fund is just a basket that holds tiny pieces of hundreds or thousands of companies. When you buy a share of a total stock market index fund, you instantly become a part owner of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and nearly every other major public company. You're betting on the long-term growth of the entire economy. Once you have your freedom fund, every extra dollar from your gap should be automatically invested into these funds. Every week, every month, like clockwork. This strategy, dollar cost averaging, takes emotion out of the equation. You buy whether the market is up or down, and over time, your ownership stake grows. And that consistency is what turns someday into math. This is how you truly escape the treadmill. Your salary becomes a tool to acquire income-producing assets. Eventually, you'll reach a tipping point where the money your assets generate is enough to cover your living expenses. This is the crossover point. This is financial independence. This is freedom. And once you hit that point, work becomes optional, on your terms. The world we live in is designed to make you feel powerless, a maze of financial traps and misleading stats built to separate you from your money and your time. They want you to believe your stagnant paycheck is your fault, that your debt is your own doing, and that your only hope is to work a little harder for a slightly bigger raise next year. But today, you've seen behind the curtain. You know the feeling of falling behind is a calculated outcome. You know your 3.6% raise is an illusion when your personal inflation rate is 4% or more. You know the system is rigged with devastating pay gaps and economic ghettos. But you also know you are not powerless. You have the blueprint. It isn't easy, but it is simple. 1. Widen the gap between your income and spending. 2. Build a freedom fund to buy back your autonomy. 3. Become an owner, not a loaner, by systematically investing. This is your escape plan. This is how you stop being a cog in their machine and start building your own. The choice is yours. You can keep playing their game, a game you are mathematically destined to lose, or you can start today, right now, to build a new reality for yourself. And the only thing that separates those two paths is whether you actually start, small, consistent, today. If you are ready to stop playing their game and start building a life of financial freedom, subscribe to this channel. This isn't just a channel, it's a community of people who are waking up and taking back control. Join us and let's start building together.